Today, the Biden administration is secretly relocating plane loads of underage migrants. We'll get into that. You're not going to want to miss it. Also, the Biden administration doubles down on telling everyone, don't worry, inflation is actually a good thing. Don't pay attention to all of the times that it's happened in history. Also, after a strong protest from employees, Southwest Airlines says that they are dropping their plan to get rid of their unvaccinated staff. We've got a lot coming up today, and it all starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to call this like the POC show. It's just a bunch of us POCs out here, all right, representing. I've got Eric July, of course, BlazeTV contributor and host of For Canon's Sake. You can find him on YouTube, Young Rippa 59. That's me. And also, we are joined once again by rapper Zuby. I love just calling you rapper. I feel like that gives me way more credibility. Yeah, I have rappers on my show. It's no big deal. Rapper and, of course, host of Real Talk with Zuby. This is Zuby once again joining us, not back in his homeland yet.
Yeah, still on the road. On the road. It's been 14 weeks away now.
I'm trying to encourage him to just stay here illegally because all the cool kids are doing it. But he's not listening to me. He's too pure. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll convince him. All right, so let's get into the headlines of the day. So the Biden administration apparently is secretly relocating mostly teenage, they call them migrants. Teenage migrants, underage migrants. These are, of course, illegal immigrants who crossed the border and are now here under cover of darkness, they say, according to a new report by the New York Post. They said plane loads of underage migrants are being flown secretly into suburban New York. Because as it turns out, you can't have, I guess, thousands upon thousands of people crossing our borders, flooding our borders, and just keep them in one centralized place underneath a bridge. I guess they're just now realizing you have to actually put these people somewhere. And so what they're doing is they're just trying to strategically spread them out across the United States. The Post specifically reported on some flights that landed at Westchester County Airport near White Plains, New York. This is an hour away from Midtown Manhattan. These migrants are reportedly being taken to Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, small towns in upstate New York, and neighboring Connecticut. They also said that around 2,000 migrants were nabbed after sneaking into the U.S. from Mexico that are now on these flights that they are sending to New York. Jen Psaki, or as we like to call her on this program, the poor man's Peppermint Patty, was asked about this. And she says, they're not being, they're not being flown in the dead of the night, okay? They're just really early flights. Watch.
Why is the administration flying thousands of migrants from the border to Florida and New York in the middle of the night?
Well, I'm not sure that it's in the middle of the night, but let me tell you what's happening here.
It is our 4:29 a.m.
Well,
very early in the morning.
Here we are talking about early flights, earlier than you might like to take a flight. It is our legal responsibility to safely care for unaccompanied children until they can be swiftly unified with a parent or a vetted sponsor, and that's something we take seriously. We have a right obligation to do that and to deliver on that. As a part of the unification process, our Office of Refugee Resettlement facilitates travel for children in its custody to their families or sponsors across the country. So in recent weeks, unaccompanied children passed through the Westchester Airport, which I think is what you're referring to, en route to their final destination to be unified with their parents or vetted sponsor. It's no surprise that kids can be seen traveling through states, not just to New York. It's something that we're also working to unite children with their family members or vetted sponsors in other parts of the country as well.
I just want to throw this into the conversation for perspective. Data from Customs and Border Protection show that more than 112,000 unaccompanied minors entered the United States just between February and August of this year. Just to, for comparison's sake, between October 2018 and January 2021, there were about 130,000 in all of those years. Here we have roughly the same amount February through August. So you know what? Something tells me that they are not actually reuniting. This isn't a reunification process, but I don't know. What am I just being naive?
Well, it's hard to say what it actually is. I mean, definitely considering the time, which is very odd, and 2:30 in the a.m., which is just an earlier.
Oh, is that? It's just an earlier flight that you'd like to take.
That's exactly not in the middle of the night or anything like that. That has nothing to do with the strategy or anything. But seriously. This is a subject, I don't know if you remember, Sarah, when we would talk about this, I would always bring up exactly what she referenced, and that was the refugee resettlement program. And I would say that even the libertarians who claim to be more privy to, I guess, the concept of immigration, that would be something that they would be against, because what that is, it's been a rotten program since its beginning, since its inception. But that's my focal point of it all, in that a lot of taxpayer dollars is being used to subsidize these migrant efforts, like as in they're stealing from you, and then they do get offered all sorts of deals when it comes to like Medicare, not necessarily Medicare, but you get what it is that I'm saying. Basically, government sponsored education efforts as well as medical efforts, and they get paid for that, and it's coming out of the pocket of you. This isn't some institution in which it's just facilitating the quote unquote sponsors that are then bringing these people in to house them and obviously, take some sort of responsibility. That would be, I think, really when it comes to anybody, definitely when we're talking about unaccompanied minors, I don't know if most people will be against that if, again, we were dealing with an effort in which those sponsors themselves were saying, okay, I have X amount of dollars, I will pay for this person, and I also will take responsibility not only just for this person or for this minor, or rather what they end up doing if it may backfire or whatever it is. That's not what we've ever dealt with, and anybody that has talked about immigration in this country, no matter what side of the political aisle, as if that's been something like that, you're being disingenuous. This is just yet another example of how they use under the quasi sort of refugee resettlement program, which is basically taxpayer subsidizing of a migrant effort. It's been going on for years, and I would encourage, I even covered this like on my show, like I'm talking about 5 years ago, I was talking about this. I would encourage people to actually go look into it, to not only see how much they get, but how much you are being stolen from in order to subsidize this effort. It's a very rotten program, but this is just yet another example of it. They just went under the radar because they didn't want this kind of to be seen. Reporters ended up doing their job, which is rarely ever the case that they would actually do that, and they did their job, and now they uncovered this where we have all these minors going in these weird areas through New York. I'm not sure why, but apparently they have sponsors out there in New York that's going to be taking care of them.
Zuby, I totally agree with you. So let's throw that into the conversation, the refugee resettlement program, and just how horrible it is. But let's also talk about, Jen Psaki mentioned that we have a moral obligation for these children. And, they want to play that card when it's convenient, but wouldn't the moral thing to do be to discourage people from sending their children on a dangerous journey where many things could happen to them? They could die, they could be sex trafficked, they are at risk for all of these sorts of things. I mean, I just don't understand if they want to talk about the moral obligation. Shouldn't we be telling these people, don't come, don't take the dangerous journey, certainly don't send your children on one?
Yeah, it's a weird situation, and this whole, as an outsider, this U.S. border situation, number one, it's a challenge that I think a lot of people don't understand the size and scale of the USA. So oftentimes, especially if I'm in the UK or I'm in Europe and you're having these type of conversations, people forget that these are not one-to-one comparisons. The UK has a moat around it, right? The UK it's an island out there. Same with somewhere like Australia. You can't just run over a multi-thousand mile border to get through. So we're not dealing with the same scale of problems, whether you're talking about legal or illegal migration, or you're talking about drug trafficking, or you're talking about human trafficking, sex trafficking, whatever it is. The USA really has its own very unique problem there. Now, I'm far from an expert on the situation, but one thing that I always find weird with it all is the utter lack of transparency. Whenever I'm seeing the border situation, whether it was what they were talking about, back with Obama, or then with Trump when it became the whole narrative of they're throwing children in cages and they're doing this and that, and then there was this huge migrant caravan at some point last year,
Yes.
which was all over the news and then suddenly disappeared. I don't really know what happened with that. And now I understand the numbers are higher under Biden, but it's not really being covered unless there was that situation where they called the guy with the guys with the horse reins and they were saying that they were right, and then that
They
sort
were
of just
whipping them.
yeah.
Oh,
So
wait, no, they weren't.
and it was like, wait, from Haiti is like over the whole thing to me is just weird. I'm like, what?
They didn't walk here from Haiti.
Yeah, my honest thing is I don't get what's going on. I don't understand it.
To be fair, I don't think they do either.
Yeah, I don't understand, and there's no transparency. I don't know what the numbers are. These unaccompanied minors who are coming over, is the claim that their parents are already in the USA and they're joining them?
A relative.
A relative, and they're
Right, a sponsor, a relative, someone. It doesn't always have to be their parents.
Okay, so I don't understand the whole situation, and I think like when it comes to any humanitarian issue, of course, there's always the sympathy and the empathy of you're dealing with individuals, and people have different situations, right? There are people who are they're genuine refugees. They're genuinely fleeing some sort of danger or political issue, or their family's in trouble. That's one situation. That's not the same situation as someone who is simply seeking an economic opportunity.
Right.
Both human beings, both should be treated well, but these are not the same situation. And oftentimes they all kind of get lumped together where the same thing happened in Europe in 2015, 2016. They just call everyone a migrant. Some people are asylum seekers, some people are refugees, some people are purely economic migrants, some people are, bad people, human traffickers who are trying to take advantage. And when you kind of lump them all together, I think it's hard to know what the solution is. So to me, it's like, okay, there needs to be transparency and these things need to be parsed out. And then you can actually have, I know there are already policies, but it's just it's so blurry and it's so politicized that something can happen under one president and people turn a blind eye or don't talk about it, even including in the media. And then the same thing or worse happens under another president and suddenly it's nowhere to be found. No one's talking about it. And before today, I had no idea about these flights that are flying people out. It's all new to me.
Well, and you mentioned the way that they use the term migrants and how it's all encompassing. Do you think that that's intentional?
I do.
Yeah.
I do actually, because I know in Europe with this situation, it was a bit different. They called everyone refugees, which was very untruthful, right? Some people were refugees.
Yeah, you're like, refugee has an actual
it's
an actual term with an actual meaning.
Yeah. Asylum seeker, refugee, these things have specific meanings. There's nothing wrong with being an economic migrant. I mean, if I ended up living in the USA, I'd technically be some form of economic migrant, right? People travel and work all over the world in different places. That's very common. I grew up in Saudi Arabia. Most people there who are from the West or elsewhere are economic migrants. You're there for a job opportunity, to make money, feed your family, so on and so forth. But with that, there's a process. I know this. I'm applying for a U.S. visa right now, right? So, and it's expensive, right? And it's time consuming, and there is a process. So even if you want to talk about what is right and what is just and what is fair, you also have to factor in the people who are doing things the way that it's supposed to be done versus people who are just trying to take advantage or exploit a system. Whether or not that system is right to begin with, I think that's a whole other question. So I'm honest enough to say I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I have a lot of questions that I'd need to ask before I could really understand and commentate on the specifics of it in any sort of with any sort of clarity.
Well, you want to migrate here, so have you considered just hopping a flight to Mexico and just
running over?
Yeah, I know a place where there's a lot of people passing through right now. You could end up at a bridge at first, but you'll get processed right through.
I don't know. I've heard about the guys on horseback.
Just tell them you're from Haiti. Tell them you're from Haiti. They'll give you some Uber Eats. You can just kind of hop back and forth and just avoid the guys on horseback. And you'll be fine.
We'll see.
You'll be fine.
That speaks to why I have said that this whole process should be marketized, and it's never really been that in this country, at least not until, up until more so recent modern era, where it is a heavily politicized issue, and that's because they do have a one-size-fits-all in terms of what they deem as a migrant. Even I have to try to whip these kind of beltway libertarians into shape because I've lived in South Texas, you know what I mean? I've lived in Laredo. I've lived in these areas where I've seen it for my own eyes, and I know that not everybody that is attempting attempting to go here has the best intentions in mind. And to act like that's not a thing is being disingenuous. But they treat it all like it's everybody is the same. They are a refugee trying to flee in a very bad situation. Damn be the trafficking issues that may be associated with it, or the multitude of other issues, which is why I say it should be marketized. So every single individual that sits up here and pontificates on the internet, lectures everybody about how we got all of this room. You reach in your own damn pockets and you subsidize whatever individual, migrant, sponsor them your damn self. And let's see you put your money where your mouth is. Is that probably going to happen? No. But when you treat it as if they have, or rather they have been treating it where it's a one size fits all, it allows you to fall back on the state, or rather the federal government, to make it seem as if you are this kumbaya, I want to do great things, I want to save the world, when you don't really have any sort of skin in the game.
Yeah. All right, we've got more to come, but first we want to thank our sponsor, Home Title Lock. So here's the thing. I was just telling Zuby, hey, it might sound like fun to be homeless and live under a bridge with a bunch of Haitian migrants. I don't know. Like, I don't know what you're into, but it could happen. You could be homeless if you have to go through the finding out the hard way about the crime of home title theft. So the FBI actually calls this one of the fastest growing crimes in the country. And what happens is a cyber criminal will go into where everyone's mortgages, all of your home's title documents are kept online. They can go in there, they can forge your signature. It will say that you sold your home to them, and then they can borrow a bunch of money. All of this retirement nest egg that you probably have, you've been saving up all of this equity in your home, they can deplete that and leave you in debt. You're not going to know it until it's too late, unless you have Home Title Lock. All right, go to HometitleLock.com, register your address to see if you are already a victim. You're not going to know it, like I said, until it's too late. You got to go to Home Title Lock. Use promo code RADIO for 30 free days of protection. That is HometitleLock.com, promo code RADIO, HometitleLock.com. We were just talking about good old Peppermint Patty. She was not done in all of her press conference. She also made the claim, yesterday we talked about how she said, look, the supply chain is, inflation is actually a good thing, okay? You don't need to worry about all of these minor details about it. It's a good thing. Don't worry about it. The supply chain delays, Pete Buttigieg said that's actually great because that means demand is up. So let's look at the bright side of things, guys. The spinning on this is incredible. So Jen Psaki doubled down on these claims. I believe this was it yesterday or today? It was today, actually. She doubled down on these claims and saying that the backlog at the United States ports, the supply chain issue, is because more goods are being ordered because people are living the good life right now. All right, wages are up. We're doing great. Watch.
The Port of Long Beach yesterday saw this new record broken, 100 vessels at anchor waiting to enter. Normally, pre-COVID, they're seeing 17 ships, give or take, at anchor. Is the president satisfied today on where things stand?
The president is satisfied that progress continues to be made. And one of the reasons that there has been so much traffic in a lot of these ports is because there are more goods that are being ordered by people across the country. People have more money, expendable resources. Their wages are up. More people are working than they were a year ago. And port to port, it's different. But statistically, some of these ports have 20%, 30% increased volume as a result of that.
Do they even know what inflation is? Do they have any idea about any of this? Do they know that the average cost of things that mean the average cost of things are going up? Do they know that the cost of oil has rose 60%? Price of oil rose by 60% over the past year. This is a 7-year high. But don't worry, because all these supply chain issues, no one dropped the ball. Nothing's going on. It's not that we're paying people to stay home. It's just that people are buying more because they're just so happy with all the money that they're making. They can't find another place to spend it. They just want to spend.
That's what happens when economic illiterates run the country. It's what I said last time we were talking about this, when they first started kind of saying some weird things regarding inflation, but all of their economists are Keynesians that don't know what the hell they're talking about in any of this regard. So, and it doesn't generally impact them. They can vote to give themselves raises, not seeming to understand a lot of these regular people who are salary workers, people that are saving money, have actually now lost money, considering that, you know, their money is being jacked with. So you have a combination of a bunch of different things. Federal Reserve, in combination with the Treasury, does what it has historically done: print money out of nowhere, so you're increasing that money supply, and unfortunately you're screwing with the economy in itself by, like you mentioned, welfare statism and some of these economic restrictions that we have in this country. So when you look at instances like that where they've had like this, you may get an influx like what you generally would start to see in this side of the year, but also people aren't working as well, and she's completely missing that element of it, where people are
seems like
not
a pretty big,
yeah, that's a
like
big
pretty
deal.
Big detail.
So because what that is saying is that you don't have enough workers to really keep up with whatever demand that is being met. It's not because the people aren't available to work. It's not because the wages are crap. No, it's because of your welfare statism. So what it is a combination of a lot of different things, or rather a few. But they are too cocky to concede what the actual problem is. So I would think they are stupid enough. Keynesian economist that works for them probably is stupid enough to believe that, oh, this is all a great sign. This is fantastic news. But it's not. This is a very, very bad thing. And the fact that they're jacking all these people's money up and then they laugh about it as if this is something that is a good thing just really goes to show how disconnected these people are. But these are very evil things.
Yeah.
Like these are evil people that we're dealing with.
Yeah, Zubi, I want to add to this conversation. I saw this screenshot of a Washington Post op-ed that just blew my mind. It was called "Don't Whine About Supply Chain Shortages or Empty Shelves."
Yeah, bread lines are good.
Right. Well, I mean, literally, that's what it's saying. It's like, look, you just need to lower your expectations.
Yeah.
It's not that bread lines are bad. It's just that you don't appreciate the fact that we are giving you bread to begin with. You are the one who needs to adjust your expectation. I'm like, are you kidding me? You guys don't understand any of this.
Well, here's the thing. I think maybe they do. It's like this whole pandemic response situation, right?
Yeah.
There's too much gnarly stuff for this all to be coincidence and incompetence. I can give some things up to be like, all right, maybe that's just stupidity or short-sightedness, but it gets to a level where I'm like, I think some parts of this are intentional. Right? It's a little bit like last time I was here, we were talking about the Afghanistan withdrawal, right? You don't need to be a genius to know that you should withdraw the citizens before you withdraw the military, right? You got the Taliban waiting in caves to come flood the city. Let's get the people out first, and let's not leave billions and billions of dollars of equipment behind for the enemy and give them a list of names of people who collaborated with it, right? That strikes me as malicious more than incompetence. And I don't know exactly what is going on within this whole state apparatus, but with some of this stuff, I'm just like, Eric used the word evil. And I think a lot of times people are afraid to use that term because we always want to assume that people have good intentions.
Yeah.
Right.
But in some of these cases, it seems like the goal is to consolidate wealth, consolidate power, consolidate control. I mean, that's what you do when you weaken. Here's another thing sorry to interrupt my own thought. Something that's been really interesting throughout this whole thing is that I've noticed that it seems to be people on the right who are caring about the little guy these days.
Yeah.
Right? You've got these huge, whether it's big tech or big pharma, or you've got these huge multinational corporations, organizations that are crushing the middle class, crushing people at the lower end of the
mom and pop shops.
Exactly, right? You had Walmart flourishing, Amazon, all
Biggest
these huge
wealth transfer.
Huge companies, right? And you've got the little mom and pop barber shop, or forced to shut down, forced to close. Not just in the US, they did the same thing in the UK, across Europe. And what's really strange is seeing this alignment of many people on the left with all of these people who traditionally would have been their opposition and the people that they're critical of. And I'm seeing people who are more conservative or libertarian or on the right, the people who are framed as you're capitalists and just don't care about people or whatever. Yeah. We're the ones screaming out, going like, hey, these are the repercussions of lockdowns. Yeah. These are the repercussions of inflation. This is who it hits. Vaccine mandates, this is who it hits. It's not hitting people up in their ivory towers in New York or San Francisco or Los Angeles or whatever. If you're flooding the border, it's not affecting them. If anything, they can now hire a cheaper gardener. But for the people who are down, like you said, in South Texas or people living in certain inner cities, those are the people who feel the brunt of it. So there seems to be this interesting switch of polarities in some way.
Yeah.
Where, you know, you're even having all these strikes and walkouts, and when I'm seeing who's rooting for it, I'm like, right? It's like,
who would have thought?
Yeah, in the past it was, you know, the leftists and labor unions and whatever who were fighting for all that. So we're living in a really weird period in time where there's all these inversions going on and strange alliances, which I don't think people would have predicted, you know, 10, 20 years ago.
I don't think anyone would have predicted any of the crap that we've been going through the past 18 months. Well, except George Orwell. He did a pretty good job of it. All right, we've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Built Bar. So if you like a good snack during the day, but you are watching your weight, maybe you're on a diet, maybe you're just trying to eat. I know people are like, don't call it a diet. You got to call it a lifestyle. And it is. Maybe you're trying to change your lifestyle by eating more healthy and not like, I don't know, eating candy bars every day. You got to try Built Bar. All right. It is a protein bar, but it is low in calorie. So it's high in the protein. It's low in calories. They're all covered in 100% chocolate, which I think is really what makes it, because they use this very, very, very high quality chocolate and they mix it with all of these really delicious flavors. So you're going to feel like you're eating a candy bar, but you are not. You are eating a protein bar that doesn't taste like cardboard. All right. You got to go to built.com. You can get a mix box there. All right, they've got a mix box where they throw in a couple of all of their regular flavors, so you can try them, figure out which one you like the best, and then stock up. Go to built.com, use promo code news15. You can save 15% off of your first order. That is news15 over at built.com. All right, an update on what is going on over at Southwest Airlines. So, of course, we've been covering this story as it's been progressing. There were a lot of, I was going to say that there were a lot of Southwest Airlines employees who kind of formed a coalition to do a sick out, but we were told that that's not, it was just weather. It was just the weather delays, lots of cancellations for flights. It was just the weather, and I think like the air traffic center. Nothing to see here, except there was no weather like problems, all of these places that the flights were being canceled. But so Southwest Airlines, after they had said that they were going to put unvaccinated employees who have applied for exemptions but have not received one yet, they were going to put them on unpaid leave starting in December, starting by this federal deadline, December 8th. They have decided that they are going to scrap that plan. They have not fully backed off of their you need to be fully vaccinated, but they have decided to scrap that plan. So what they said is they will no longer be put on unpaid leave. They can continue to work, and they will be able to reapply for their medical exemptions or their religious exemptions if they had applied and not received it. They will be able to ask the company to reconsider. They said if the employee has new information or circumstances, it would like the company to consider. It feels a lot like the company does not want to come out and say, we realize that we will be screwed if you guys all leave. We will not be able to operate. It's almost like the workers have more power than they think they do and shouldn't be just bullied into doing this. But so it's not a full walk back, but I think it is progress. I think Southwest just doesn't want the PR. And plus, you know, they do have the federal mandate where they have to, according to Joe Biden's executive order, they have to have all of their employees vaccinated. So maybe they're trying to figure out how to work around that, make everyone happy, sweep it under the rug. But I want to get your thoughts, but I also want to just go ahead and show really quickly. There was actually a Southwest Airlines protest here in Dallas, which is, of course, where their headquarters is. Our very own Savannah Hernandez, who is the producer over at Slightly Offensive, went out there and listened to these Southwest employees. Here is what some of them had to say.
When does this stop? Two-shot vaccine, a booster, a second booster, a third booster, and then could this spill over into other sectors? I mean, when does this stop? And I've got 4 grandkids. And that's one reason why I'm fighting. When does it stop?
I've been here 25 years and just had one more year to retire. And now they're telling me I have to take the job or take the jab or lose my job. And I just don't want to give up my freedom like that.
We're out here to protest being forced to do a medical procedure that is against what most of us want to do, or what all of us want to do. We need freedom of choice in our health care. I mean, we got an email saying that if we weren't vaccinated, we were going to be fired. I'm scared that I'm going to lose my job. I'm scared I'm going to lose my benefits. I'm terrified. I don't want to find another job. I love this company. I love this job, and I'd like to stay. But I'm not going to be forced to do something that I feel is dangerous and not in my best interest.
As of right now, Southwest Airlines is requiring their new employees to be fully vaccinated. So it's difficult to say how this is going to turn out in the end. But at least for now, they have walked back the unpaid leave plan. Is that a step in the right direction?
Could be. I mean, this Southwest thing is very interesting. Keeping up with that, I know we had Glenn's show was that Southwest Union,
yes, the
pilots
yes,
union
yes.
that was a part of that, saying that they, of course, didn't support this.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I think it hurts. Now, this could be them trying to get ahead of a lot of this. We saw what happened with Delta as well. I have some inside information myself with a pilot friend saying that once we get closer to November, December, we probably haven't seen anything yet, because mainly the pilots, you can have as many workers as you want, but if ain't nobody flying them damn planes, then you're screwed. And there's a lot of people, a lot of them being former military as well, that work for these airlines and that made the decision. They're like, I'm not doing it.
Yep.
Even if it's like only 20% of them, that really jacks them up, because they do not have, I mean, you can't just teach someone to freaking drive a plane. It's not how
I mean,
it
we
works.
hope that's not what they're
Well, yeah, we hope that's not what they end up doing. But that's a very difficult thing. And a buddy of mine was a pilot whose name obviously I won't say, who's part of this industry, is saying that there's a lot of guys with his company. It's getting crazy, and then once we get closer to like November and such, they have their own individual kind of mandates that are going on. A lot of those aren't going to get honored. So you may end up stranded somewhere, and we may be revisiting this. And
the cancellations, you mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I hate for people to be inconvenienced like that, but if that's what's necessary for these idiots to get it, fine. I don't plan on going anywhere, but even if I did and got stuck, I'd be like, whatever, man. Like, this has gotten insane, but this is just the people being able to see that they have a lot more power than they give themselves credit for, especially when in unison say, you know what, no. I'm not going to comply with any of this moronic stuff. Southwest more so, though, is screwed up. It's how government money always works. They got all that bread laced up by way of the government to try to keep them afloat, right? They were actually one of the first companies to become, airline companies to become profitable outside of the pandemic, if you will. So because they took all of that bread. And now they like, it's the pay to play. This is how government works, pay to play. They gave you this bread, we expect you to honor our rules. So that's why even though the CEO's like, I don't want to enforce this, he's kind of within a bond. But it doesn't matter how he feels about it, Joe Biden feels about it. If they don't got anybody to fly them damn planes, they're going to be in trouble.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, firstly, I think one of the weird things about climate change is how it only affects certain airlines. But on a serious note,
it's incredible.
It's very specific.
It's just like COVID. It's a very advanced disease as well. It only targets you when you're standing, not sitting. If you're at a social justice protest, it doesn't affect you. It's incredible, these things.
Trump rally, not BLM rally, all of that.
Very advanced.
So it's but on a serious note, I mean, I've been doing meetups throughout my time here in about 8 different cities now. I had a big one in Austin, and there was a woman there who was a nurse, and she was saying, they're looking to fire me in the next couple weeks, but I don't want to take this shot for XYZ reasons. And this is happening all over the USA. This is happening all over the world, right? And if, this is the weird thing. People are speaking out two sides of their mouth. Last year, what were they labeling all? There was hero worship.
In the healthcare 100%.
Firefighters, essential workers, and now the same people, less than a year later, all of a sudden villainizing them, wanting to fire them, causing them to lose their jobs, livelihoods. So this is something that's truly sinister and evil. It's illogical. Even when it comes to these religious and medical exemptions, right?
Yeah.
I don't even really like that, because I don't want it.
That should be good enough.
That should be good enough.
Right.
Yes. I don't want
or need this medical procedure or medicine, period. That's it.
Yeah.
Right? If you want to go deeper on my reasons, I can give you some reasons. But in a country like the USA, in any country, but especially in the UK's, Canada's, USA's, Australia's of the world, places that are supposed to be liberal democracies, freedom, all of this, these are places where people have been screaming, my body, my choice, on the left side of the aisle for decades. and all of a sudden it's your body, my choice.
Right.
You want to fire people. It doesn't even make sense, given what we know about these particular injections.
Yeah.
These are not even shots which stop the virus in its tracks, prevent infection, prevent you from. Then at least someone could make the claim that if you get it, you are helping to protect other people.
Right.
In this case, with what we know and what we've known now for months, it purely protects the individual. If it's raining and I have an umbrella, it makes no sense for me to be screaming that everyone else needs to have an umbrella. I am protected.
Right.
And so it's so illogical. And when they do all of this is what creates conspiracy theorists. Because anyone who's thinking and who's calm and reasonable goes, wait, this doesn't make sense.
Let's get into that after the break. Because I think we're having a technical issue. So let's look into that, and then I do want you to pick back up there, because I think that kind of goes with the next story that we have as well, and it'll be a good conversation. Let me first thank MD Hearing Aid. So I don't know if you have a loved one in your life who is hard of hearing like I do. It's very, very frustrating because it's like you're trying to talk to them, and I don't know, sometimes I feel like this is just what husbands do, but legitimately my husband has a hearing problem, has a hearing aid, and I was just getting so tired of repeating myself all the time. So if that's you, if you have a spouse who just cannot hear you and you're like, you have to get tested, you need hearing aids, you got to check out MD Hearing Aid. They are an FDA registered rechargeable hearing aid. It costs a tiny fraction of what hearing aids cost. You won't know this unless you are in the market for a hearing aid. Average price of a hearing aid in America is over $2,400 a pair. All right, this one is $299.99. It's a Volt Plus model each when you buy a pair. Okay, it blew my mind. My husband came home with the hearing aid that he was using before, and I was like, I'm sorry, it costs more than our mortgage. Are you serious? It's insane. All right, MD Hearing Aid was founded by an ENT surgeon who made it his mission to develop a quality hearing aid that anyone can afford. They're very, very sleek. No one will know that you're wearing it. The rechargeable battery life, it lasts up to 30 hours. They're cheaper. They're way better. You got to check them out. All right. You can go to mdhearingaid.com. Use promo code Y to get this buy one, get one offers. So it's $299.99 each. They're also adding in a free extra charging case that is a $100 value just for you. All right. So go to mdhearingaid.com. Use promo code Y. Zuby, all right, I want you to be able to finish your thought here, but I want to add into it, because I think this goes along with what you were saying. The Food and Drug Administration is expected to say this week that people can get booster shots that are different from their initial doses. So you could get the Moderna or the Johnson & Johnson or the Pfizer, whichever you prefer. I mean, it probably makes more sense to get the first one that you got, but hey, I mean, just go ahead and do it. One is better than, three is better than two is what they're saying. And to me, it's like, I know we don't have science to show that is how it works. I know we don't, because you literally just made that up this week, yet here we are.
They're running a lot of experiments right now.
Yeah.
And something people don't realize is happening internationally is because you've got these different rules in different countries, and different vaccines are available and recognized in different countries. So I've heard stories of people who are coming from Asia and they want to go to Europe, and they've got the double jab of Sinovac or whatever one is available in their country, but then in Germany or in the UK, they don't recognize that one. I've heard stories of people like getting 3 different brands, like 5 shots, different mixing and matching. That's happening a lot because different countries recognize different shots. So for the people who are getting it to travel, which I have my own issue with, they're just jumping through these hoops and injecting these different things into their body to meet these guidelines, and I don't believe anyone has done any real research on or study on
how they interact in your body.
Fingers crossed it's safe, but I mean, what's going on here? There's so many weird things. I mean, from a scientific perspective, one of the most crazy things is this elephant in the room of natural immunity, which they choose to continue to ignore. And I think a lot of this stuff, some of these elephants are going to be the ultimate downfall of this COVIDian regime because it's too obvious. It's huge.
They've overplayed their hand.
Hundreds of millions of people, if not billions, by this stage in October 2021 already had the virus, recovered, got strong immunity, at least as strong as the vax, most likely significantly stronger.
Well, now they're saying if you're vaccinated, you should also maybe get natural immunity.
It's so
and that's going to be what puts you over the top.
It's so nutty, right? And I think this game in theater has gone on for far too long.
Yeah.
But the harder they keep playing their hand, the more people they start firing and pressure. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't recognize things until it comes to their doorstep, right? Eric and I, for yourself, over a year, we have been ringing the alarm, saying, look, this is what's going on. It's a slippery slope. If you allow this, it goes to this. And a lot of people rejected that until it suddenly came to them and saying, oh, your kids can't participate in sport or maybe go to school unless they do this. Oh, you can't even keep your job. There are people who do remote work. There are remote work companies mandating. You cannot even pretend to tell me this is about science. Right? So all of that, like, people have different points when they wake up. But there are more and more people waking up. When you're looking at countries like Israel, now you're not fully vaccinated unless you've had 3 shots. All those people who diligently went and got their 2, they're back on vaxxed again now.
You're on vaccinated.
You've lost your green pass. You now can't go to the cinema, restaurants, gyms, etc. So while that is disheartening, it's also kind of encouraging. Because I'm like, okay, well, when they start pushing the 4th and the 5th, it's not sustainable.
The jig ends up being up. And that's why, this elephant of natural immunity, which they don't want to acknowledge, they're going to have to at some point. I mean, even coming out of I forget what they call it out there in the UK that keeps up with all the data, where they came out with a study recently saying exactly that, that they have at least as much protection, that people that naturally got it in comparison to people that had two shots. Look, they could sit and be mad all they want at that idea that there are people that recover, therefore they do not need this jab. But the longer they kick that can down the road, obviously the more people look at this and say, wait a minute, none of this makes any damn sense. I've had people message me many of times, just none of this makes sense. I even was going along with it because I thought it made sense at the time. And now come on, I can't accept. I wanted it to be true, and it wasn't at first anyway, but I wanted it to be true, so I went along with it. But you went along with it so long that you start to see the, again, elephant is sitting right next to you like, this doesn't make sense. This has nothing to do with science. I'm talking about mixing and matching vaccinations, which usually generally a medication since they usually say don't ever freaking do that. And now we're talking about it with jabs. Look, man, I pray to God that none of y'all start growing baby legs up your necks and all kinds of stuff. But this don't make any damn sense. I'm sorry.
We gotta take a break. We'll be back.
That's gonna be. It just doesn't.
I'd like to thank all of you who have gone and left us a review wherever you get your audio podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is. Thank you for your reviews. I'd like to just ask today, of all days, yesterday, I said an oopsie word that I wasn't supposed to say, and they had to bleep me. And I told you guys I was going to get an email, and I did get an email. So what I need you guys to do to help me out is go over and leave a 5-star review, leave a 5-star rating, subscribe, and also give us a nice review. You may see it read on air as an added benefit for you, like the one today from Dr. I don't know how this is just a bunch of letters. I don't know what it means. Love it. Love the news and why it matters. News I can trust. Love all your guest co-hosts, especially Yako, Chad, Stu. Oh, who am I kidding? Love you all. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much for your review. Bail me out and make sure the Blaze overlords are not mad at me by going and leaving your 5-star review. Also, don't forget, you got to follow Zuby. Listen to his music, zubymusic.com. Am I right there?
That's right.
And also Eric July, Young Ripa 59.